I'm in a weird mood today. Nobody's dropping anything. Hold.
They're scrambling in the control room.
Like, wait, are we dropping something? Okay. People drop mics. We drop power panels. We drop panels, a whole panel. Anyways, so we were just talking about what's got us energized. Partly Ojeda,
yes,
from yesterday, man. And I talked about it at the top of the show, but then in our post game that we did, was actually just the whole Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz debate. By the way, YouTube was down, and so a lot of you didn't get to watch it live. But members, we put it up about an hour after the debate, immediately. So you guys had it last night. You can watch it tonight. The debate's super interesting. Our commentary, I think, afterwards was, if I might say so myself, a little interesting as well. And we juxtaposed Beto to Ojeda a little bit, and we had some fun doing it. Okay, tyt.com/join, obviously, to become a member and get that special coverage for you guys. There it is, tyt.com/join. We do have a campaign going against Ted Cruz. It's off to an excellent start. I'll tell you about that a little bit later in the program. I wanted to note two things. Look, this Sunday, it's Tucker Carlson versus me at Politicon. It's gonna be interesting, okay?
Yes, it is.
So if you're anywhere near LA, go check it out and make sure you use the code TYT when you go to politicon.com to get tickets, politicon.com. Look, let's keep it real. We want a decent number of Young Turks folks in the audience.
Yes,
of course.
Please come.
Yeah.
Like, just come, because if this year is gonna be anything like last year, I don't know what they do. I don't know if they bring in like buses full of their conservative fans from other states. I mean, look, there are conservatives in California, to be fair, but there's a lot of like imitation tactics being played, which doesn't really work, but still, like, it would be nice to have you guys there as well.
Yeah, let's keep it real. So in previous years, we packed all the rooms, and so seeing that, I think that the conservatives went out of their way last year to try to bring in as many people as possible. So let's make sure our folks are there and have fun.
Yeah.
Politicon.com, use the code TYT so we can communicate with you guys. And so that's gonna be Sunday night. And then Anna is on a couple of panels.
Let me give you the deets on those panels, okay? So I'm gonna be on 2 panels on Saturday. One of them is going to be at 12:30. Oh, that's fun. One of those panels is gonna be at 12:30 on Saturday, and the other panel is gonna be at, I believe, 2 o'clock, same day. One will be on Medicare for all, the other will be on socialism. So the socialism panel has a bunch of friends on there. Sam Cedar will be joining me, Kyle Kulinski will be joining me. For the Medicare for all panel, I believe I am the only person who supports Medicare for all, so that should be fun.
That's a par for the course.
Bill Kristol's on that panel.
Bill Kristol, the neocon, is on that panel. Yeah. Interesting. But I love that you and Kyle are on a panel together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be super fun. And Haas is debating Charlie Kirk one more time. We're calling it Uno Mas.
Or Uno Haas.
Oh, that's a good one, Uno Haas. Okay. And so, and like I said, Kyle Driver's on like 28 different panels at Politicon. So you got it. Hopefully we'll see you guys there Saturday and Sunday in LA. And then we'll have some clips up for you guys, obviously, at some point. And then the last thing real quick to mention at the top, and then we'll get to the stories, including the latest absurdities in the Saudi story, is Streamies. So 2 cool things here. One, in the news category, you guys don't have to vote. That's the panel decides. But 2 out of the 5 nominees are us. So one is the Young Turks for Best News Show of the Year, not surprising. The other is The Breakdown, Uno Haas.
Yeah. You know what though? Well deserved.
Yeah, definitely.
Haas works really, really hard. That show is excellent. Does really well on Facebook particularly. And I want to beat him, but I hope he does well, sort of, kind of.
I hope they come in second. They're good kids.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, that's Hassan Piker and Francis Maxwell on The Breakdown. Please check that out. If you're a member, you get all these. But for the second thing we're up for is Show of the Year, not just news, but Show of the Year, and that's the one that your votes do matter. That's why it's the tweet on there is #TYT for Streamies, and the cool thing about that is all you have to do is just include the tweet, okay? hashtag TYT4Streamies, and the tweet is the vote, as long as it's got that hashtag in it, and you could vote once a day, so go nuts, okay?
Oh, what's the hell, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Can
yeah, of course, you are allowed to do that. All right, so that'd be amazing if we won Show of the Year for the entire internet. That would be badass. So thank you guys if you're participating in that. All right, what's next, Anna?
All right, we have updates on Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Yes, I said his name differently because I have been corrected. It is not Khashoggi, but I feel like it's a little bit of the Obama-Pakistan thing.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Khashoggi. Look, if you really want to be exactly right, it's actually a Turkish name, Khashoggi. Okay,
Khashoggi.
You know what it means? It means one who makes spoons.
Oh yeah, you did mention that before.
Okay. But Khashoggi's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna say Khashoggi just because I don't want to be thrown off as I'm presenting this story for you guys. Let's go. We have updates on the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. Now, it has not been confirmed whether or not he has been murdered, but it does appear that the Saudis are getting ready to claim some responsibility for it, not necessarily the royals, but they're going to push out some narrative indicating that it was an interrogation that had gone wrong and that the royals had nothing to do with it, which is ridiculous when we give you all the different updates that we've learned through the last 24 hours. Now, first, CNN shared some of the surveillance footage showing Jamal Khashoggi going into the consulate. And I want you to take a quick look at that. And then I'm gonna give you some of Trump's reactions and how he has already started this narrative of defending the Saudis.
Saudi Arabia insists it is not responsible for Khashoggi's disappearance. This security footage shows the Washington Post columnist entering the Saudi consulate nearly 2 weeks ago. The Turkish government says it has audio evidence that proves he was murdered inside. The Saudis have yet to provide any evidence that shows Khashoggi leaving the building.
So CNN is absolutely right there. The Saudis keep saying like, no, he left the consulate. We had nothing to do with this. We don't know what's going on, but they haven't provided any evidence. At the same time, Saudi officials who showed up on those chartered flights are now being identified, and many of them are being identified as individuals who have very close ties to the Saudi royals. And not only did the Turkish authorities identify them, but the New York Times went out of its way to also independently verify them as well. And we're gonna give you the details on that. But before we get to all those details, Trump also had an interview with Fox Business. And during that interview, he basically made it clear that he has a very cozy relationship with the Saudis. And so he doesn't know what happened, and we shouldn't be so quick to judge the Saudis. Let's take a look at the first clip.
You did mention some of these deals. There's some arms deals at stake right now in Saudi Arabia. They're having a big.
Right.
It's called the Davos of the Desert Conference,
right.
And given the news out of that part of the world with the Washington Post columnist going into the embassy and never coming out. Are you still going to send a delegation? Are you still going to send Treasury Secretary?
What we have right now is Mike Pompeo, who's terrific, who's done a great job. Secretary of State is with the king right now and the Crown Prince, literally as we speak, and we're trying to find out what went on. And a lot will be determined. He hasn't gotten back to me. He's going to probably over the next couple of hours, sometime prior to your show.
Okay.
But he will be getting back to me, and you'll start hearing what is happening. Turkey's looking at it very strongly. We're all looking at it together, but Turkey and Saudi Arabia are looking at it very strongly. And it depends whether or not the king or the crown prince knew about it, in my opinion. Number one, what happened, but whether or not they knew about it. If they knew about it, that would be bad.
So that one statement, if they knew about it, that would be bad, was probably the strongest statement that Trump had in response to the Saudis. The rest of the interview, he essentially talked about how important Saudi Arabia is as our ally, and we'll get to those clips in a minute. But he did mention Mike Pompeo and how he had gone to Saudi Arabia to talk to officials there about what had happened. And in all of the images that we've seen and all of the footage that we've seen of his meetings, he seemed to be very friendly to them, which is fine because maybe behind the scenes there's some tough talk happening. But in his public statements, it makes it clear that Pompeo, Secretary of State, has not been tough on the Saudis. In fact, let me give you one of his statements. This is graphic 4. He says, I could go on about the places that no, graphic 4, please. I could go on about the places that the Saudis and the US are working together. The US needs to make sure that we're mindful of that. Also, on the same day that Mike Pompeo went to Saudi Arabia, the United States received $100 million from Saudi Arabia. And this money is supposedly meant to convince us to stabilize Syria, portions of Syria that ISIS previously took control of.
All right, so lots to get to here. First of all, on the $100 million that they just sent us, first the Trump administration says, "Oh, heaven forfend, those things are not at all connected." Oh, come on. They owed us this money for a long time, or we asked them for that money for a long time. They happen to give it to us just as Mike Pompeo is talking to them. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But please, don't insult our intelligence, although that's what they do on a daily basis. So, and I, before that news even came out, I had tweeted earlier in the day about how, look, we all know what happened now. It's very, very clear. The only question is, what secret deals are the governments of US, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey going to strike? What's Turkey gonna get? What's America gonna get? And then how are they gonna cover it up publicly afterwards? Because that's what's happening right now. They're negotiating, right? And Turkey's like, we caught you, you're embarrassed, and they got a beef with Saudi Arabia. They want something. And by the way, the Turks gave us Pastor Brunson back, also coincidentally at the same time. And they say, oh, that one is also not at all connected. The Turkish government says, no, the Turkish judiciary is independent. They happen to release him at the same exact time that we were meeting with Mike Pompeo. Then Pompeo goes over to Saudi Arabia and they release $100 million at the same time. There's a lot of coincidences going around here. Look, so I know a lot of the mainstream media can't say it's obvious. They can just lay out the facts for you and hope you connect the dots. It's our job to connect the dots, and I can say it. It's obvious. They're negotiating behind the scenes. Everybody's gonna get paid, except you guys, obviously. Then they will all come out with a united front on how to lie to you. And so they looks like they're settled on the lie of, well, okay, it's inconvenient because Khashoggi is gone, he's dismembered, and he's all, so we can't bring him back. So the Saudis are gonna stop, likely, according to the sources, stop lying that he was not killed, but say, oops, golly gee, it was a rogue team, and that's why Trump has already said it might have been rogue killers, and as long as the crown prince and the king didn't know about it, so super easy, the crown prince and the king come out and go, well, God, we are shocked to find out that there are murders going on in Saudi Arabia. Well, this was obviously not authorized. So was it not authorized? So I'm just gonna give you, there's a million facts showing you, but let me just give you 2 of them that I think are dispositive. They had a bone saw with them. They sent a 15-person team with a bone saw, and they say this is an interrogation that went awry. Why'd you bring the bone saw if you were just going to question him? Number 2, they brought a forensic doctor from Saudi Arabia, one of the top doctors in the country in that field, connected to the Saudi government, that specialty is autopsies.
Autopsies and dissection.
And dissection.
Yes.
Okay, gee, I wonder if it was an accident or they planned that ahead of time. It's not like they're in a different country, they're in Turkey. It's not like, oh, the guy's dead. Hey, you wanna bring the autopsy guy in and the bone saw in? No, they brought the autopsy guy and the dissection guy and the bone saw with them. That's not a rogue operation. And now the New York Times has bothered to go connect many of the people that were in that group of 15 to very closely to the Saudi government. But to which I say, of course they're connected. You think that operation gets authorized by the Secretary of Labor, the Secretary of Transportation? No, the Crown Prince authorizes that kind of insane, really risky operation in a different country. Of course.
So we have more clips from Trump that we'll get to in just a second. And then I wanna give you the details about those Saudi officials who did go to the consulate and have been identified. But if things play out the way that we're predicting they're gonna play out, where you have 3 major countries striking some sort of deal to brush this under the rug, this sets an extremely dangerous precedent, right? This signals to everyone that if you have the audacity to criticize the US government, well, maybe not the US government for now, but if you have the audacity to criticize an ally of the US government, and that government somehow retaliates against you and possibly murders you, well, arms deals, financial connections, foreign policy deals, whatever it is, those will, serve as the reasons for why our government won't do anything to protect you or prevent it from happening in the future, right?
And let's keep it real. There are only 3 countries that matter, okay, in terms of our allies. You can do anything you want to Mexicans. Mexico's a huge ally of ours. Nobody cares in the Trump administration. You can do anything you like to people in Canada, okay? But if they do something wrong, we will call them out, no question. I mean, Trump loves insulting Mexico anyway. But in the case of Saudi Arabia, whoa, there's a lot of money there. Israel, out of the question. Israel can do anything they like. They will never be criticized. Okay, certainly not by the Trump administration. And number 3 is Russia. I mean, you know what Trump said about when Russia murdered someone in the UK? Trump said, well, it's not our country. That's the United Kingdom. That's our top ally. I don't care about the ally as long as my other ally, Russia, and that's not that it's the US ally, it's just Trump's ally, is killing them, or Trump's ally in Saudi Arabia is killing someone. He doesn't care. Doesn't care at all.
And why is it that he doesn't care? It always goes back to the money. In fact, he was very transparent about that while he was being interviewed on Fox Business. Take a look.
I do not want to do that. And frankly, they have a tremendous order, $110 billion. Every country in the world wanted a piece of that order. We got all of it. And what are we going to do? So, I've had some senators come up and some congressmen. They said, well, sir, I think what we should do is we should not take that order. I said, who are we hurting? It's 500,000 jobs. It'll be ultimately $110 billion, the biggest order in the history of our country from an outside military. And I said, we're going to turn that down. Why would we do that? So hopefully it's working out. We'll find out. We'll get down to the bottom of it. I hope that the king and the crown prince didn't know about it.
So he's setting it up again. I hope they didn't know about it. Wink, they already know that that's going to be the excuse. And but the money, that's all I care about. I mean, isn't that sick? If you're a good Christian, I mean, did you ever read the Sermon on the Mount? Did you ever read about Jesus throwing out the money changers? This guy's obsessed with money. That's the only thing he cares about. Oh, you dismembered someone. Yeah, but how much money did you give me? I mean, think about how sick that thought is.
It's extremely sick. And remember, when he frames things in the context of, the Saudis are important because this weapons deal helps with jobs here in the United States. Trump is not thinking about those things. He's not thinking about you. He's not thinking about providing jobs. It's all about wins for himself and financial deals for himself. And every once in a while, he slips up and doesn't say for the country or for the citizens.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
He says straight up, for me, and here's an example of that.
So Saudi Arabia, and they have, I can only say, I've been here for almost 2 years, they've been a great ally to me.
Yeah.
To me. They're investing tremendous amounts of money.
He can't help himself. To me, he said it twice.
Sometimes he's just accidentally honest because he doesn't know any better. That's why I say he's so unintelligent, because a more savvy person would be better at lying, right? So he's got a pathological need to lie, and he does on every issue, including on the jobs. There's no hundreds of thousands of jobs being created by that contract. That's a total fabrication, as usual. But other times, like when he said, "Oh, why'd you fire Comey?" Because he was investigating me. You're not supposed to say that, you schmuck.
Yeah.
But he can't help himself. And here, Saudi Arabia, they're good to me. So let's talk about why they're good to him. So and about the money during the campaign. I'm sorry, in January of this year, Trump had said, "I would want to protect Saudi Arabia." He said, "But Saudi Arabia is going to have to help us economically." Okay, so that's about the country, and here, he struck that exact deal. You give me $100 million for Syria, and I give you whatever excuse you want, and you could murder any journalist you like. Okay, and so that's brazen. And then of course there's the issue of his own personal enrichment, and there he registered 8 companies in Saudi Arabia during his campaign. That's pretty nice. The Saudis then, after he won, transferred all their hotel rooms from other hotels to Trump properties and you might think, oh, well, that's, is that really a material number? $270,000. The Saudis like to use some hotels.
That's just a little tasty taste, though.
Yeah.
Just a little tasty taste of the type of financial relationship or financial ties Trump has had with the Saudis. In fact, some of his ties go back to 2001. In June of 2001, when he sold the 44th floor of the Trump World Tower to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for $4.5 million. There's also a more recent example where he specifically said of the Saudis at a 2015 campaign rally in Mobile, Alabama, "They buy apartments for me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much."
That's as he's running for president in 2015. He said, at the same time he's saying, we got to ban all Muslims, right? Until we figure out what the hell is going on. But apparently with the Saudis, he figured out what the hell was going on. They grease him. They give him a lot of money. So he's like, oh, the Saudis, I got that figured out. They gave me $40 to $50 million. What am I supposed to do, not like them? I like them. Well, yeah, okay, you like them. But then how about when they killed the journalist and then dismembered him? What were you scared about with the Muslims? You were scared about like crazy fundamentalists, the Saudi government, doing crazy things like torturing, murdering, and dismembering people, the Saudis. Yeah, but they gave me a lot of money. Remember how good they treated me. So I don't care. I like them. So now Trump is going around the country lying on behalf of the Saudis. And he's gonna lie even more, and they're all gonna cover it up, and they're gonna pretend that somehow the bone saw and the autopsy doctor accidentally wound up on the flight, and all the guys that are right next to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on all these different trips that are a part of his top security personnel, golly gee, was unauthorized. That is the lie that Donald Trump is saying now and will definitively say very soon, and you'll see it with your own eyes. Hey, look, that's why I love saying things ahead of time. If you're a MAGA guy right now and you're going, no way, I bet Donald Trump stands up to those Muslims. I bet he fights back and calls them out for what it is.
He's really trying to figure out what the hell is going on right now.
No, Donald Trump's selling out for money. He would never do that. Okay, go ahead. Let's see how it turns out.
All right, well, I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit very quickly to give you what I promised, the identification of these Saudi officials. So, both Turkish investigators and the New York Times separately did an investigation to look into the 15 Saudi officials who arrived to the Saudi consulate in Turkey on chartered flights. And what they did was find evidence that a lot of these officials are actually very closely tied to the Saudi royals. So to give you some examples, let's go to graphic 5. One of the suspects identified by Turkey in the disappearance of the Saudi dissident, Khashoggi, was a frequent companion of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. 3 others are linked by witnesses and other records to the Saudi Crown Prince's security detail. And a 5th is a forensic doctor who holds senior positions in the Saudi Interior Ministry and medical establishment. He has done extensive work and has published writings in regard to dissection and mobile autopsies. And it's curious that he would show up with these Saudi officials to the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Also, the presence among the suspects of an autopsy expert suggests that killing might have been part of the original plan. And that's an important detail to keep in mind because the Saudis, based on reports that were first done by CNN based on anonymous sources, indicated that the Saudis were preparing to release a statement indicating that the royals didn't know anything about this, but the death of Khashoggi was the result of a botched interrogation. Now, why was he being interrogated in the first place? We don't know. They haven't given us an answer, and they haven't, to be fair, they haven't come out with that prepared statement yet. And who knows if they really will. But if they do plan on coming out with that statement, the identification of these officials would certainly go counter to whatever narrative they're trying to push.
So let's break down another part of this as we dissect, if you will, what happened here. So we know parts of the deal already. So the 3 governments, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the US are making a deal, and then they're all gonna lie to you. We all know what happened. Anna just laid it out for you guys. They're clearly from the highest levels of the government. They clearly brought murder weapons to Turkey. They stayed for 1 day. It was a hit team. It's now, with all the exhaustive reporting on it, there's no question left. And so the only question left is, what's the secret deal in order to do the cover up? Because Saudi Arabia is not gonna come out and say, yeah, we dismembered him because we're monsters. And America is not gonna say, and Donald Trump has said it a million times, well, I like the money they're giving me. I like the $110 billion deal that we have with them. I like that they give me money for my apartments, et cetera, et cetera. So he's not gonna turn around and say, okay, I'm done with the Saudis. That's never gonna happen. So we know so far what the Saudis are gonna get. They're gonna get a cover up. That's very important to them because they got a huge economic summit coming up and they want outside investors into the country, and they can't have it if we have sanctions against them, if we sever our relationship. So they're gonna get to maintain the relationship, and they're gonna get a cover up. Now, we know what the US has gotten so far. The Saudis have sent $100 million to the US in order to help with Syria, okay? So that's just a bribe. And then the US also got something from Turkey. They got Pastor Brunson, which Turkey was holding, and they say that's a coincidence. Obviously it's not. The only thing we don't know yet is, what is Turkey gonna get in the deal? Because they're the ones who have the evidence.
That's right.
And they just sent in that forensic team into the consulate, and they say they've got DNA, et cetera. They have the audio recordings. And what they're holding out for is, I could release the audio recordings. Why didn't they release it yet? Because they're holding it in their back pocket for leverage, right? And that team, they're gonna have the evidence from that team. So if we're right about this, and I guarantee you that we are, whether it's public or not, soon Turkey will get a gigantic prize from Saudi Arabia, okay? And so that's how this deal is done. And Donald Trump will bless it all, and everybody will go on in their merry lives, except for, of course, the people who were murdered. That the person in this case is Khashoggi, and obviously his family members will be outraged. Meanwhile, let's also note the hypocrisy of Donald Trump. During the campaign, he said, I cannot believe that the Clinton Foundation is taking money from the Saudis.
Well, he had been taking money from the Saudis for decades, right? In the form of deals and just business dealings. And one other thing I wanted to quickly mention, if all of that wasn't evidence enough for you, the identification of all these Saudi officials, there was one other important piece of evidence that was outlined in the Times piece, and it talked about those 2 private planes or jets. So records show that 2 private jets chartered by a Saudi company with close ties to the Saudi Crown Prince and Interior Ministry arrived and left Istanbul on the day of Mr. Khashoggi's disappearance. So that's yet another piece of evidence. I think it's become abundantly clear what really happened to him. And what I'm curious about is whether or not the Republicans who have gone on the record to criticize the Saudis are going to now backtrack and pretend like this is all okay and nothing really happened.
They will, and that leads us to the last part of the puzzle, okay? There's a fourth country that no one talks about. It is not, you're not allowed to talk about it. It's talked about in code words, and that's Israel. So, wait, what do they have to do with it? Well, Trump talked about, well, the Saudis help us with Iran. Now, we had a perfectly good deal with Iran, and the rest of the world did in ending their nuclear program, et cetera. Trump ripped that up. But right now, we don't have any open hostility with Iran, but Israel does. Israel hates, and understandably so, that they fund Hezbollah and Hamas, which works against Israel. So Israel, and this is all public knowledge, Netanyahu has gone to the United Nations, has come to the US and said, Israel's a ticking time bomb, Iran is a ticking time bomb, and America, you have to attack, you have to attack, you have to attack Iran, right? So when they say Iran, that's a code word in Washington for be cool. Israel says Saudi Arabia is okay because they work with us against Iran, okay? And then Mike Pompeo said this, that Anna referred to a little bit earlier in the show. I could go on about the places that the Saudis and the US are working together to make sure that, and that the US needs to be, quote, make sure that we're mindful of that. What do you mean the places that the Saudis and the US are working together and that how everybody should be mindful of that? You know what that means? That means, hey, everybody be cool. And remember, Israel's allies with Saudi Arabia, and together they're fighting against Iran. So that's your code words. Now, if I am right, what will happen with those tough guy Republican senators?
Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio are two notable critics of what's been going on with Saudi Arabia.
They'll just make a little bit more noise, and then by a week later, all of a sudden it'll die down, and there'll be no more talk of sanctions or ending our relationship or stopping the funding of the war in Yemen that Saudi Arabia is doing. All of a sudden, all those tough guys will melt away because they should be mindful of where Saudi Arabia and us are working together, wink. And if I'm wrong, they won't. They'll be lions and they'll come out. And so far they've been strong and we've given them credit for that. If I'm wrong, they'll continue and they'll say, no, we demand that you end the relationship, and they'll take congressional action. Good luck. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. That's why I love telling you ahead of time. And I'll tell you right now, they ain't gonna take no congressional action. They're going to be mindful of what certain allies want them to do.
We got to take a quick break. When we come back, Mitch McConnell is very clear about how he's coming after your Medicare and Social Security.
All right, back on the Young Turks. God, there's so many great comments here, and I got to tell you so many things. So real quick, let's go to YouTube Super Chat first. KF writes in, I won the TYT Politicon contest, but can't go due to high flight prices from Hawaii to LA. Oh, that sucks. On the upside, you live in Hawaii.
For real.
And he says, here's a donation instead. Been watching for 12 years and a proud Wolfpack member. Love you guys, wolf-pack.com. Thank you. And mahalo nui keha ualani fanene.
All right, sounds fun.
Okay, I did the best I could on the names, but mahalo to you as well. Elliot makes a good point on YouTube Super Chat. Also, if it wasn't the Royals, then why did they come out and deny it at first, saying he left from a back door?
Yes, I mean, their story keeps changing. Come on.
Interesting. They said they knew. They said they knew he was alive.
I just want to know why they think it's a good idea to release a statement saying that it was an interrogation gone wrong without like specifying why he'd be interrogated.
Yeah, because they know the US is going to cover for us. It's irrelevant what we say. We can say the aliens did it, and they'll get Alex Jones to go, it was an alien life force, blah, 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 and we're done with it.
Oh, a point that I wanted to make was, look, there was so much drama and debate regarding Alex Jones getting blocked from social media. Like, no one murdered him. He didn't go into a consulate to get a document to get married. Like, he's still alive. He's still crazy as hell. He's doing his thing, okay? He's just not allowed on these platforms. But everyone was paying attention to that. With this, like, where's the outrage about this? I mean, there are some people, those who are paying attention, but it's not like a huge national story that everyone's talking about.
No, Ben Shapiro will not stop talking about freedom of the press. Okay, anyway, I don't know what Ben's position on that is, to be fair. All right, Sartorial Narwhal in our member section says, Saudi Arabia is a monarchy. Government agents don't go off the reservation on something this big without getting a nod from the monarch. That's exactly right. Gabby Marita says the 2 Gulfstream aircraft used by the rogue killers who killed Khashoggi are registered to Sky Prime Aviation Services, a charter company owned by Mohammed bin Salman. You've got to be willfully ignorant to think the Saudi royals don't have fingerprints all over this. Of course they do, and that is exactly what they are, willfully ignorant. Last one is Mary or Marie in the members section. I love the Ojeda commercials so much. I watched them all again today. Imagine how much he would terrify Trump. No, a lot of people have been imagining it. I rewatched them last night, and I've now watched them 4 times, okay? So if you're a member, go back to the beginning of yesterday's show or the end of the Beto Ted Cruz debates to see us having fun with those. You know what, let me actually, if you're a member, one more thing. TYT Classics is back. You guys asked for it. It's back by popular demand. I think tonight we're doing Ben and I talking about Senator Obama back in 2006, because this show is ancient and we were on the air at the time. Did you know we're the longest running show on the internet? I don't know why I'm the only one who thinks that's super cool. I think that's like the coolest thing ever. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Anna and I are going to do TYT Classics. You guys will see that tomorrow if you're members. Okay, we're taping it tonight, I think, and up tomorrow.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, tyt.com/join to become a member and get all that programming. Whose side was I on? Whose side was Ben on the Obama debate back when he was a senator? All right, and the last thing is Ted Cruz. So mentioned the Cruz O'Rourke debate. We are running an ad against Ted Cruz. We started it yesterday. And I want to show you the ad and then tell you how you can participate. It's short and it's fun. Let's watch. This is Ted Cruz. That's him phone banking for Donald Trump after Trump called his wife ugly. Look at him. What kind of a man does that? Oh yeah, Trump also said his father was probably a murderer. He made calls on behalf of Trump after being unmanned by him. You're looking at the saddest man in America. Ted Cruz 2018. Pathetic. Some people say that was unsophisticated.
Oh, come on.
I agree. Politics is not that sophisticated. All right, so tyt.com/cruise to donate to run that ad. So we're trying to get to $10,000 to at least start running it on Facebook. Obviously, all in the state of Texas. Maybe we'll sprinkle it into Washington, D.C. a little bit, get them a little agitated. Anyway, did we get to 10,000? Let's take a look. We got the thermometer. Sorry, 14,413 already.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Wow.
So here's what we're gonna do. So 10,000 on Facebook. If we get to 20,000, since you guys blew past the target immediately in under like 12 hours, I think it was.
Oh my God.
Okay, we'll go, the next 10,000 will go to YouTube ads in Texas against Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
If we keep going, maybe we'll do TV ads. We'll do as many ads as you guys wanna do. Okay. So
this topic made me think of a post-game topic that I want to discuss. Are we having a post-game today? We are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The topic of masculinity. Yeah. So it's there's a disagreement between me and my husband that would shock you.
Oh, a shocking disagreement. Fascinating.
He doesn't even know that the disagreement exists because I've bit my tongue.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys. tyt.com/join. Become a member. Get the post game, the TYT Classics, and all that stuff. Support the show so we can do unsophisticated ads against Ted Cruz. Okay. There's another way to support the show, by the way. If you're already a member, tyt.com/yes. If it's right next to the members' comment section. Okay. And you don't have to be a member either, but if you're on tyt.com, okay? So it's a big blue button, and if you like what we say, go. You could throw in $1, you could 27 bucks, whatever, right? If you like what we're up to. Okay, thank you guys. All right, what's next?
All right. Mitch McConnell was a huge advocate for the massive tax cuts that these corporations have recently gotten to enjoy. And he also is very concerned about the deficit, which is interesting because usually Republicans only care about the deficit when there's a Democrat in charge. But let's hand it to McConnell. He is concerned about the deficit. So what is he planning on doing? Does he realize that maybe these taxes are a really bad idea? Does he realize that according to the Congressional Budget Office, it will add $1.9 trillion to the national debt over the next decade? Is he gonna reverse course? No, he wants to do something else. Take a look.
What's going on with the debt?
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. That's 70% of what we spend every year. The subject we were just discussing, the funding of the government, is about 30% of what we spend. There's been a bipartisan reluctance to tackle entitlement changes because of the popularity of those programs. Hopefully, at some point here, we'll get serious about this. We haven't been yet.
So it's over, but nonetheless, the mainstream media will continue to drive me crazy by calling things even and going, well, it's unclear who wants to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He just said it. He said we have to. That's the real problem in the deficit, and we have to get serious about it. That means we have to cut it. That means if the Republicans maintain power in the House and the Senate, they will definitely. That's their leader in the Senate. They will definitely go to cut Social Security and Medicare. Nonetheless, the mainstream press will go. Well, Democrats say this, Republicans say that. No, he just said it. They've said it a million times. So look, we have the TYT Army. I don't think we use you guys enough. There's another one we're gonna ask for your help. TYT.com/army to join up. There's a couple thousand of you guys. You need to let anyone in the press who's making that mistake know. The leader of the Republicans in the Senate has said that they are targeting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It is absolutely clear. And so if you elect Republicans, that is what you're gonna get. They are going to cut those programs. He just told you.
Yes, and this is another example of how crucial these midterm elections really are. Because if Republicans have their way and they still control both the House and the Senate, they will cut these programs. These programs that you've paid into, these programs that you can look at your paycheck and realize exactly how much money the federal government takes away from you every single time to help fund these programs. You paid into it. That's why it's an entitlement. You are entitled to Social Security. You are entitled to Medicare once you're eligible for those programs. And the fact that they want to go after that, after they just went on this nationwide tour bragging about cutting the corporate tax rate from 35% to 25%.
21%.
No, 21%. I'm like, wait a minute, was it 21%? We've talked about it so many times on this show, and every single time it shocks me. 21%, and that's not even the effective corporate tax rate, because remember, they have not closed those corporate tax loopholes. We did that story about how Jared Kushner has quintupled his net worth over the last decade, but for several years has not paid anything in federal taxes. Why? Well, because there's a massive loophole that Trump actually further expanded, right? That allows him to claim that his properties have depreciated in value. So he gets to deduct from his tax. Like, no, this is not okay. That's the problem. These entitlement programs are not the problem.
Look, I don't care what your political leaning is. If you watch the Young Turks, you heard us say ahead of time that they would do the huge tax cuts for the rich, and then they would turn around and say, oh, well, we got a problem with the deficit, so we got to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. We told you that ahead of time, and here it is. They put a $1.9 trillion extra hole in our debt, okay, created that much more deficit. And now Mitch McConnell turns around and says, no, let's take it from you guys. You put money into Social Security and Medicare, let's rob you. Because the average guy in the top 1% got a tax cut worth $61,000 a year. $61,000 a year. So now we got to come after your Social Security and Medicare. You saw it with your own eyes. You saw us predict it. You saw them do the tax cut. You saw it go mainly to the rich. At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. And now you're seeing them saying, yeah, now we're gonna cut Social Security, Medicare, just like we told you. You can go back and watch the old videos. You see it with your own eyes. Now, if you're a Republican or a conservative and you're comfortable with that, okay, fine. And at least you've made your decision and you made it armed with the information you needed. But I think for the rest of us, that is an absolute outrage. You worked your whole life to put a little bit of money into Social Security and Medicare. You need that desperately when you retire. I mean, look, the drug prices alone are gonna kill you. I mean, Medicare does a great job of covering a lot of things, but it doesn't cover all the drug prices, right?
Right.
And that alone is gonna swamp you because we still have private health insurance. And this guy's saying, no, my rich donors don't have enough, but you have too much. Not only that, get a load of this. At the same time, they're pushing for tax cuts 2.0. They say that if they win the House and the Senate, they're gonna come back and do another round of tax cuts. You know how much that would give to the top 1%? Another $40,000. Another $40,000 a year. They'd be up to over $100,000 a year in tax cuts per year.
One of the tax cuts that they're planning on proposing and passing, if they do control Congress, is doing like this. Let's say you have properties that you're about to inherit from your parents or something, or anything. They're going to change the estate tax to basically count the value of those properties at the purchase price from decades ago. Obviously, the value of these properties has gone up tremendously. And so it's another way of saving taxes for the wealthy, right? Saving in taxes for the wealthy. Look, it's a really bad idea. And it's also terrifying because I do see a portion of the country that is barely in the middle class, very close to, not even being counted in the middle class, saying that privatizing their retirement would be a better idea. You think that's a good idea? And by the way, if we didn't have Social Security and you're just reliant on saving money and putting it in the stock market, we see the kinds of games that are being played in the stocks, right? Like we see what's happening with these corporations doing corporate stock buybacks, artificially inflating the value of the shares. I mean, that would be a nightmare. It's scary to think what these Republicans want to do and will do, again, if they control Congress after the midterms.
They say I'm biased if I say that the Republicans are corrupt. No, it's a fact. That's a fact. They do exactly what their donors tell them to do, which is give me the tax cuts and rob the average American. That is what you're seeing with your own eyes. So the biased position is to call it even. It ain't goddamn even.
It's definitely the lazy position too. So luckily, Americans are paying attention to all of this. In fact, the tax cuts are not popular. And as a result, we have some lawmakers who are avoiding even talking about the tax cuts as they're campaigning either for re-election or elections. So we're gonna give you that story when we come back from our break. We've gotta take a quick break, but I love this next story. It's so interesting, you don't wanna miss it.
And one more thing, guys. The story that I love, of course, we like all of them, that's why we picked them, but is we're gonna show you 3 different Democrats and the difference in strength in those 3. And it doesn't even include Ojeda. Okay, if we put in Ojeda, he'd break the meter. Okay.
Can we bring him in?
Maybe we should. All right. Anyway, we'll do that a little bit later in the show. I don't want you to miss that because it gives you a great sense of this political spectrum within the Democratic Party. All right, we'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Comments first, let's go to Twitter. Melly Bitch writes in, Social Security already isn't enough to live on. My family of 2 disabled adults and 1 child lives off of just over $1,000 a month. What's left to cut?
Jeez, I know.
Think about that, $1,000 a month. How are you supposed to live on that? And they want to cut it, and they give $61,000 a year to the rich. It's unreal. And then EDOD 2002 writes in, there's a solution, repeal the tax cuts. They're saying this because they're trying to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, so they're outraged to get us to say, well, we'll go to the deficit, we'll get the deficit down, and I guess I'll give up my money. And he says, not gonna happen with me. Look, guys, it shouldn't happen with any of you. And so I gotta tell you, if you watch our coverage last night, if you remember of the Beto versus Beta debate, Beto, man, sometimes he was milquetoast. He talked about, oh, we'll move the corporate taxes back up to 26%.
Yep.
Why only 5%? Why only 5? No, move it back to 35% where it was, and then close the loopholes. Okay? Why are we? No, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of it. No, look, we're gonna get to pick a Democrat in 2020. Okay, pick the one with balls. Pick one who's gonna fight back to the maximum, whoever it is.
Or ovaries that fight back.
That's right. Yeah. That's proverbial. So whether it's Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or whoever else, pick the one that says, goddamn right, we're gonna take all those tax cuts back. Okay, not the ones saying, no, not any da-da-da. Anyway, to the members' comments, Pam says, look, any problem with Social Security is an easy problem to fix. Just make the rich pay the same percentage of Social Security taxes as everyone else. Cenk, I can show you the math. Just let me show you. I'm a CPA. Pam, I appreciate it, but I've already seen the math. And Bernie Sanders talks about it all the time. You're absolutely right. So the Social Security payroll tax, the Medicare payroll tax, is capped at around $120,000, a little above that, okay? And then after that, the rich don't pay it at all. What the hell? Why? That's insane. It's the most regressive tax we have. That's why they keep cutting the corporate taxes and actually piling onto the payroll tax and then cutting the thing that you paid into. It's total reverse Robin Hood wealth redistribution to the rich. Okay, Gruga writes in, they try to make entitlement a dirty word as if we should be ashamed to use them.
That's right.
100% right. And the last one is, Delamore says, I think the Cruz ad plays to an underspoken truth. Conservatives don't care about policy or hypocrisy or lying. They care about emotional orthodoxy. How well this candidate supports their feelings of them being right. The ad takes square aim at that principle, and even if it doesn't speak to us liberals, it will speak loudly to conservatives.
Yes.
Exactly right, Delamore. That's why we did it that way. Because you're not trying to win over more liberals in Texas. You're trying to win over independents and some conservatives. And the way you do that is by unmanning him. And for a liberal, that makes you uncomfortable. Oh, no, don't do that. What does that even mean, unmanning? Oh, no. Well, I'm not trying to get your votes. We got to win that seat, and we got to get that vile snake Ted Cruz out.
Yes.
And the way you do that is by undermining his masculinity. I'm keeping it real. That's how you do it, okay?
Yeah.
So tyt.com/Cruz. And by the way, in your effort to undermine his masculinity, your best friend was Ted Cruz. He already did it for you. All you got to do is point it out.
Exactly. Pathetic.
Right. Okay. All right. What's next, Anna?
The massive tax cuts for the wealthy never played well with the American people. Even before they were passed, polling indicated that more Americans actually opposed these tax cuts than wanted them, accepted them, approved of them. And so now we have certain members of the GOP running for re-election, who just don't want to talk about the tax cuts because it's not playing so well with their constituents. And a prime example of that is Representative Peter Roskam from Illinois. Now, he is the architect of the tax cuts that were recently passed by Republicans, which of course went into effect this year. But he is not mentioning it at all in any of his ads. Roskam has yet to air a single ad touting the law he helped craft. His challenger, though, businessman Sean Casten, is now on the air slamming him for the legislation. And we have an example of that. So let's take a look at the video.
I'm Sean Casten, and I approve this message. There's no disputing Peter Roskam's link to Donald Trump as the author of Trump's tax plan that gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to big corporations and the top 1%, adding nearly $2 trillion to the deficit. And to pay for all this, they want to send the bill to America's seniors, cutting Social Security and Medicare. Tax breaks for corporate special interest. Illinois families get stuck with a bill. Roskam and Trump together 94% of the time, hurting Illinois families.
That ad is 100% accurate.
It is. And the district that they're having this race in is a fascinating district. We'll get to the details of that in just a second. But what was Roskam's response to these attack ads? I love it. My opponent has really embraced the politics of ridicule. He's fallen into this trap of Republican name calling.
Oh, I love that. He's toast. So Roskam, the Republican, is doing what weak sauce Democrats normally do. Oh, I'm not with them. He's calling it Republican name calling, even though he's a Republican, right? And he's complaining about being bullied. This is a classic way that Democrats lose. So Roskam, thank you very much. We appreciate your weakness. And what you're doing is reinforcing Kassen's framing, which is the #1 mistake that Democrats normally make, and he's making it. Wonderful. My favorite part is when he called Kasten too aggressive. Oh, is he too aggressive in calling out what you're actually doing?
Exactly. You are the architect of this tax plan, and it's been a disaster for the very people that you're supposed to be representing. So that's the interesting thing. So this district is predominantly white and also upper middle class. Most people make at least 6 figures. And it used to be dominated by Republicans. Just to give you an example, Mitt Romney won this district by an 8-point margin in 2012, but Trump lost it by 7 in 2016. And part of the reason why Trump did, is because the people in the area are actually socially liberal, but they're also fiscally conservative. They're legitimately fiscally conservative. So they don't like these tax cuts. And let's keep it real, Illinois does have a higher state tax. And the people living in this district are worried that this is actually going to increase their taxes because the new tax plan caps the amount that you can deduct in state taxes.
No, Roskam's toast. I mean,
Gone.
Normally, this is the kind of thing that the Democrats would bungle, and it would drive me crazy because it's a layup. I mean, if Hillary won it by 7 points, there's no reason why Democrats should lose it in 2018. But even more so, the phenomenon that Anna just talked about, well, they're normally fiscally conservative. They might like the tax cuts, and they might think, oh, I'd rather have the money, and I don't care if the Republicans are terrible people to other human beings, right? It'll outweigh, but not anymore for 2 reasons. One is this particular tax cut actually raises taxes in Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and California. So they wanted to punish the blue states. Oops, okay? So those fiscally conservative guys goes, wait, I just got robbed? My taxes went up, and you hate gays and blacks and all these things that I don't agree with, right? And so that's the second phenomenon. They're highly educated in that district, vis-a-vis the rest of the country. So it makes them very uncomfortable. Like before, when it was dog whistles, if you give them enough tax cuts, they could get past the dog whistles. Now, when it's a bullhorn saying we hate Muslims and Latinos and we got massive issues with blacks and gays, etc., they go, man, it's churning my stomach. I can't vote for these monsters. And you raise my taxes. I'll see you, wouldn't want to be you. And that's why now Roskam is crying and crying about how Kasten is too aggressive.
Yeah. One more break, and when we come back, we are going to compare Democratic candidates from weakest to strongest.
Oh, this is going to be a fun game. Stick around, brothers and sisters.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.